This word press on is a hunting term. It means to track, it means to follow, it means to pursue prey or an animal. The reason I'm not a hunter is because I'm kind of lazy. Truly. I mean, I've got hunter friends, and when they get their tags to go hunting, like, man, no, that's nuts. My buddy, he pulls this tag and he spends days tracking animals and scoping out the little place. I'm not so far from a hunter, I don't even know the language for it, okay? And it's cold and snowy, and they're like hiking in, and then he's like, then Graham, if you shoot one, 200, 300 pound buck or whatever, you gotta haul it out. And I'm thinking, what? No thanks. I'm like, come on, can't you like ATV? He's like, not in a lot of these places. There's no motorized vehicles allowed in some of these parks. I'm like,
someday Amazon will pick it up for you.
Amazon, yes! Amazon. Like when you can just drive down the road or around the corner to on the boulevard up here and get a pretty decent burger, why in the world would you spend that kind of time, money, and effort? But Paul says that our spiritual lives should be like a hunt. Like if we're not prepared and if we're not ready and if we're not eagerly anticipating what that's going to be like, listen, God is not a hiding God. He's not going, if you can find me, you can know me. No, he's saying, I'm perfectly available for you to know. But at the same time, Paul's saying, we should treat it like a hunt. Like, I am going after this. Why? Because there is nothing more important in your life. The end. Like, there is nothing more important than knowing Jesus in your life. Nothing more. We've got to keep going. And I'll explain why that's important here in a minute, because we've only gotten through one verse. Holy smoke. Pursue him, brothers and sisters. And I do not consider myself, in verse 13, yet to have taken hold of it. I don't know him well enough yet. It is a lifelong pursuit. He says it is going to take a while for me because Jesus is so vast to know. I will never know him completely. Never. But if I'm going to do anything in this pursuit of Jesus, here's the one thing that I do. Do you think that's an important line? Do you think that should pique our attention and interest and say, okay, if Paul, who loves Jesus and wants to know Jesus and he's made Jesus his priority in his life, and this guy is kind of this person that we look up to in terms of our spiritual faith, he can be a historical mentor to us, and if we live like him, in fact, he might tell us that in a second, he says, if there's one thing that I do, shouldn't we all stop and go, okay, one thing that Paul does, guess what it is? Absolutely. He says, forget what's behind. Forget what's behind. And press on, straining towards what lies ahead. Straining is not easy, is it? We don't, in American culture, we don't want to strain for anything. That's why Amazon's going to deliver meals to your doors. Because it's too hard to, listen, America was founded on people that would actually go out and kill dinner and take it home and peel the feathers off or the fur off or the scales off, which is even grosser. And now it's too inconvenient to go to the grocery store and buy the prepackaged food. They're going to send it to your home. Listen, we don't know what straining means, guys. And if you truly want to know Jesus, you have to put some effort in. It says, forget what's behind. Now, forgetting doesn't mean that, oh, I'm going to wipe my memory clean. Because how easy is it to forget stuff? I mean, depends on what, right? Like, Trish told me yesterday, I told you this. Because I was like, what are we doing? She's like, I told you.
Sometimes you don't hear that.
So, I mean, there could be, like,
selective hearing.
Selective hearing. Even bad memories. But I'll tell you what you don't forget. You don't forget what your parents said to you that broke your spirit. You don't forget when your friend stabbed you in the back. You don't forget the time that you did something so horrific to somebody that you are afraid that it could come back and haunt you the rest of your life. You don't forget those things. Just like you typically don't forget when you got the highest grade in your class. That's a pretty successful moment, isn't it? Paul's not saying that just wipe your memory and knock all of these things out of it. He's saying, I don't want my memories, I don't want what's happened to me in the past to hold power over me as I move forward. I don't want to give it that kind of power and control. So I'm not going to really forget it. Like, oh, did that happen? No, that happened. And that hurts. But I'm not going to allow that to impact me as I move forward. I'm going to overlook it. Did it happen? Yes. Did I learn that word? Absolutely. But I'm not going to let that impact me as I move forward. This word forgetting means to no longer be influenced or affected by. So he's going to forget what's behind him. And he's going to press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me, having worked in Christ Jesus. He's saying, I'm going to keep moving forward with Jesus in hopes that someday I will live in heaven with him forever. All of us then, he says in verse 15, who are mature should take such a view of things. What does it mean to be mature?
Fully developed.
Yeah. Perfect? Are mature people perfect? Do mature people make mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. He's saying maturity does not equal perfection. Some of your translations might use the word perfection, which is not as great a translation from the word that Paul actually wrote there. A better translation is mature. Because perfection is something that we are attaining to. It's not something that we've arrived at. Those who are mature should take such a view on these things. And if on some point you think differently, that too God will make clear to you. Because sometimes we think we know, and then later on we learn we really didn't know. Verse 16 says, only let us live up to what we have already attained. Here's the difference, and I told you this a while ago. We, and our job, is to work out what God has worked in. What has God worked in? Salvation, righteousness, holiness. But am I righteous and holy as I live my life? No. But when God looks at me, he sees perfection. So my job, what I have to do here, is I have to trust and rely on what he says about me is true. That I am perfect and holy in his sight. I've already attained that because he says so, not because I'm acting so. And as I live my life then, I need to be more and more and more aware of how to work out what he worked in and work towards. He says, only let us live up to. I've got to live up to how he's already changed me on the inside. I can be mature without being perfect. And I certainly have a lot to work on in terms of acting more like Jesus in my life. But as far as God's concerned, when he looks at me, believe it or not, he sees holiness and righteousness there. Always worth rejoicing over. Always. Verse 17. Join together in following my example, brothers and sisters, and just as you have used it as a model, keep your eyes on those who live as we do. Follow my example, Paul says. But didn't he just spend some time telling us how he's not yet living how he wants to live? Like he's still struggling with becoming Christ-like more and more in his life. Like he's not perfect yet. He's attaining for perfection. So is it okay to follow somebody that's flawed? Yeah. Because short of Jesus, we all are. We all are. Nobody's perfect. We should follow people that are mature. For sure. But he's saying, why should we follow him? Because he's following Jesus. Follow people that follow Jesus. I'll say that one more time. Follow people that follow Jesus. If you want to know Jesus better, find and follow people that know Jesus. If you want to know Jesus better, find and follow people that follow Jesus. Why? Because the other side of that is desperate, is dangerous, is heartbreaking. Watch what Paul says in verse 18. For as I often told you before, and I now tell you again with tears, many live as enemies of the cross. Many live as enemies. You are in the minority when you follow Jesus. Because most people are going to follow the world. He says in 19, their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is set on earthly things. What? What? Paul says, listen, there's a group of people that is in the majority, that's out there in the world that you're living on, that does not think the same way about life that you think about. And we are becoming more and more and more aware of these types of people in the world today. Watch. Their appetites control them instead of them controlling their appetites. So they boast of things that they should be ashamed of. Have we seen an increase in that in our lives? Where things that we know to be wrong are highlighted as being right and okay. They boast in things that they should be ashamed of. But instead of being ashamed of it, they're like, hey, it's all good. And by the way, if you oppose what they're saying is good and call it what it should be, shameful, then you all of a sudden are the one that's being persecuted. This is normal and typical for the church. Normal and typical. And it gets harder and harder and harder for believers to live in their cultures because of the gap between what the world says is okay and what God says it is. They make those standing for the truth feel ashamed. They make perversion normal and morality a perversion. And they live as if there's no God. And heaven and hell are myths. And this life is all there is. Some of us know this firsthand. And what's even more heartbreaking is that when people are in the church and they're making these things okay, I have to stop and go, I don't get it. I don't understand why people in my position in other churches in town are allowing things to happen in their churches that are clearly more worldly than godly. And it makes you feel sad and angry. I was thinking about that last night as I was not falling asleep, thinking about this message, because that's what my mind does at risk. If I was Paul, I wouldn't say with tears. I would be like ticked off. Because I'm a little ticked off by what's happening today. I'm a little ticked off. There are churches that are saying that these things are okay. And hey, great for you. Look, I get it. That we need to be loving and we need to be encouraging and we need to be supportive. At the same time, we also need to follow God's way. And I'm angry. And then I'm like, Paul wasn't angry. He was weeping. Because in love, he was worried and concerned about these people. And with tears. They're living as enemies of the cross. They probably don't even know it. Maybe they do. But they're certainly not choosing the way of Jesus. So he finishes in verse 20, the section that we're going to try to finish through. He says, but our citizenship is in heaven. Don't forget where your home is. Because as uncomfortable and as increasingly as uncomfortable as our culture around us gets, this ain't our home.
Amen.
This is not our home. We have a better place to look forward to. A nation of God forever. He says, so eagerly await. Watch. Some of us don't feel like there's any urgency because it's been so long since he said he was coming. He's like, did you forget? At some point, God's going to be like, working through all of the papers on his desk. And then he'll come across that one piece of paper that he's like, oh yeah, I told him I was coming back soon. And then everything, that's like sometimes our view on, well, no, it's a perfect plan. And he will return. Are we eagerly anticipating that return or not? And when he does return, by the power that enables him to bring everything under his control, he's going to transform you from your lowly body to the glorious body like his. That's something to look forward to. Now, before we wrap this up, there's a couple of things that I really, really, truly want us to take away from this, Paul's words to the Philippians. He knew he couldn't achieve knowing Jesus intimately in this world, and he looked forward to the future. But while he was here, he strenuously pressed on to achieve the goal of knowing Christ more, right? So mature believers have to take an honest look at themselves. We have to take an honest look at ourselves and decide, are we pursuing him like Paul did? Or are we allowing all of these different things in our life to reprioritize our lives so that we kind of lose track of what our priorities are? But Paul says, do this one thing. What was it? One thing I do. You forgot. Let me remind you. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I did forget.
Then you remember it. He says, forget the past. Forget the past. Overlook the past. Here is a reminder of what Paul did. Paul was a zealot for the Jews, which means that he was bent on persecuting the church and stopping something that stood in the way of the Jewish traditions. And so he would go into communities and he would take families and rip them apart. Anybody that worshiped Jesus, he would persecute, and some of them he murdered. Paul was a murderer. Anybody in here ever, maybe I shouldn't ask that question. Do you think that would be easily forgotten? Especially when you realize that you were doing wrong. He thought he was doing right by killing people. And then Jesus meets him and says, you're wrong. And all of a sudden he's got to reconcile being a murderer with the forgiveness of Jesus. That's a big step. He says, I have to forget. I've got to overlook. I've got to put the past in the past. I've got to take the garbage of my life and leave it where it needs to be. And not only does he have to leave the bad things of his past, he has to leave the good things too. Because like I said before, Paul knew Jesus in ways nobody has since that's still alive. He says, I got to overlook that too. Because it'd be so easy to walk around going, I'm Paul, I met Jesus. I'm an apostle specifically selected by Jesus to reach this particular people group like nobody else. It would be pretty easy for him to get proud and to kind of stop, right? See, forgetting the past and overlooking what's happened means that we have to prioritize Jesus in the right way. The past in my life reminds me of how desperately I need Jesus, and I'm sure it did for Paul too, and it can for you as well. But it should not control me anymore. I am not who I once was because of the forgiveness of God, because of what his Son did for me on the cross. We don't have to forget the pit that God pulled us out of, because we're only here by his grace anyway. So your past, we're going to forget the past. We have to forget both the successful spiritual progress that we've made and the failures and sinfulness. We have to overlook it. We have to leave it where it belongs. Yesterday. It should be left in the past instead so we can focus on the future, pursuing Christ with all your effort. What keeps us from pursuing Christ is oftentimes the past. Don't let it derail you. No matter what you've done, good or bad. Leave it in the past. Instead, he says, press on. Press on. What does that mean?
Hunt them down.
Sorry?
Hunt Jesus down.
Hunt Jesus down. She liked that hunter reference right there, didn't she? Hunt Jesus down. See, your failures and sins are forgiven, folks. It's gone. And God has removed that from you, your story. He said, I paid for that. Put it behind you. You don't have to forget about it because it keeps you relying on Him. But you can put it because it's been paid for. It's been taken care of. There are consequences, surely, but I've handled it. He says, your failures and sins are forgiven. Your spiritual successes cannot be rested on because I am a God that moves. I am not a God that's static. You will never know the end of me, but you better start studying the middle. So press on. Press on. The secret to progress, Paul says, is this one thing. Forget and move. Forget and move. Forget and move. And here's the beauty, people. You can start over spiritually every day. Because what is current today is the past yesterday, tomorrow. Because current today is the past tomorrow. Tomorrow is some days yesterday. You don't have to get stuck in it. You start over spiritually every day. Listen, start over spiritually every day. Start over spiritually every day. And you can keep a focus on Jesus. You can keep Him prioritized in your life and the future that you have in store for Him. So let me end with this. What's keeping you from making the effort to know Jesus more? I want you to know Jesus. I want you to know Jesus, Paul says. Forgetting what's in the one thing I do. Forget what's in the past and press on towards something. What is keeping you from knowing Him more? Are you stuck in your past like my friend at the Waffle House was, going, I don't think there's ever going to be a way for me to know God. No, there is. There is. There is. Maybe you feel like, well, I read my Bible a couple of months ago. It's all good. God's like, no, because you'll never get to the end of me, especially if you're not even trying to find me today. What's keeping us? What's keeping us? And will you determine to make an effort to know Him this week? Will you? What will you do? What will you do? We get so caught up in missing out on something that you're like, oh, I'll get to that later. God, you've been there forever. You'll be there forever. You can wait until tomorrow. That's not fair. That's not what Paul did. This is the one thing that I do. I press on. I hunt it down. Will you this week go hunt down God?
Yes.
Thank you. You will be better for it. The rest of us, if we're not saying yes in our heart, we've got a thing or two we could learn, right? Do it. How? Well, our kids shared it with us. Our kids and Mike.
Can I be an honorary kid?
Read God's Word, folks. Pray. Gather together. Follow somebody that knows Jesus well. Ask them to coffee. Say, I need this. Will you meet with me? That's what we do. That's what it means to hunt Him down. Let's pray, Lord.